Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That's my co-host Tyson Gentry. We are breaking down the divisional round, giving our quick reactions here. Got some preview stuff coming out, but that's our big preview is going to be later in the week. But first and foremost, Tyson, we're not burying the lead because I had a bad wild card round betting on our preview show, previews and picks. Bounce back for the kid. Went 4-1, 3-1. I'll have to double check. I know I lost Bills, the mono play. But you fucking swept the weekend, dude. You hit the big parlay, too.
Yeah, I mean, we call that a vacuum because once it gets over that, I mean, we're not sweeping anymore. That was good. It was nice. So I can't take credit for some of them, like Chiefs money line. I think everybody in the world was on that one. I had the Bengals and the Eagles covering the spread. I think were the two outlandish ones, maybe, or against the grade. But we were saying, man, it's the last opportunity you get for a four-bagger. You got to take the most of it.
Yeah, plus 582 if you follow Tyson, because he took the Bengals money line straight and in that parlay, which was great. And we'll get into all of that. But like I said, this divisional round reaction here, we just want to give our quick thoughts as we watch these games over the weekend. And let's start with the one we just watched. The Niners, they ground past Dallas, grinded, whatever the verbiage is. It wasn't pretty. The defenses showed up and played well. Purdy didn't make the mistakes. The Dallas defense I thought was great, and Dak Prescott did make the mistakes. They could have won this game if he doesn't have those turnovers. Just give me your thoughts on what you saw in that game.
I think if Dallas's defense took advantage of some of the opportunities they were presented, then that whole thing, like Dak had some really bad plays, but Purdy did too. There was that passes they drive to go down and score and take the lead that Diggs dropped that hit him in the hands. They had a couple others that they could have had that would have totally swayed the game, but that's the difference when it gets down to this point in the year. And honestly, I think grind is the perfect word for this because they couldn't get anything going on the ground, but they just stuck with it. And then all of a sudden, Elijah Mitchell, man, what a resurgence because he went from 1 yard to carry all of a sudden to 3, and then he's pouncing things out to basically seal the game at the end. 49ers are more physical, and that was pretty evident. Although Dallas got after Purdy's ass, which is what we were saying might be his downfall, but he passed.
Yeah, and when you have the safety blanket like a George Kittle, who Purdy's clearly has great chemistry with, and then Deebo Samuel, it's playoff Shanahan, it's playoff Deebo. Like they're figuring out ways to get him the ball creatively. And like you said, it was Elijah Mitchell on the ground. Christian McCaffrey was super quiet today. He did have that one touchdown, which everybody in the world, I think, cashed their ticket on. But other than that, it just wasn't a special game. And it was something that I feel like we haven't seen from a Kyle Shanahan team in the playoffs, Tyson. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like these are the games that the Niners somehow lose. Like it's all glitz and glam, and it looks great for Shanahan with wide open receivers. The running game looks beautiful, but if they kind of don't have those opportunities, I feel like sometimes they just can't find a way to get over that hump. And I thought in this game they certainly did and did it in the right moments.
Well, they get hawked down in these moments by everybody but the Green Bay Packers. They've been able to out physical and win close games against Green Bay, and we all remember. Was that 3 years ago now when Green Bay punts instead of – there were some cowardly punts today, by the way, dude. Mm-hmm. And this weekend in general, there was some horrible the Bills were guilty of it, and I thought Sean McDermott peed down his leg a couple of times during that game. But as far as this one goes, like this is what you should have expected. Like if you came into this one thinking fireworks, you were wrong. We thought maybe the Niners pass defense could be exploited. They were all over the place. They were hitting people. They were all over, making big plays. I think – that if anything, you're more comforted as a 49ers fan this week than if you go out and it was 24-14. Like, I think this feels good.
Yeah, I definitely winning a close game, one where you have to utilize different aspects of the team. And CeeDee Lamb went off, 10 receptions, 117 yards, but that was to be expected, right? Like, that's the weakness for the 49ers. You can exploit them there. But to your point, yeah, he had catches and yards. He didn't have that big play. And nobody for the Cowboys really had that big play. Like if they caught the ball, they're getting tackled immediately. And that's the part of the Niners I think is their best attribute on defense. They tackle and they stick tackles and they don't let you get extra yards. And they're just a tough team to beat right now.
I don't really like what do you do with them on defense? Because like we're going to find out because Philadelphia is obviously who they're going to play and probably the worst matchup that they have in the entire NFL as far as physicality goes from an offensive standpoint. Like the Eagles will meet you where you're at, wherever that is, wherever the Niners decide they want to be. Philadelphia will meet them there physically, and that's going to be interesting. Fred Warner on Dallas Goedert is going to be the show. That's going to be probably where this thing's won and lost, because at one point he's running step for step with CeeDee Lamb down the middle of the field, and selfishly as an Eagles fan, you want to be like, oh, that never happened. They play us. Smitty would outrun it. That's not going to happen. Fred Warner's unreal. So it's going to come down to schemes. And honestly, if Philadelphia plays Philadelphia football, because Dalton Schultz at the end of the game, I know it's nothing, but not hauling in that pass, that's a lack of concentration. Like, that's who this team is. This is the last play was the most pathetic final play I've ever seen in my entire life. Like,
it was hilarious.
What was the plan?
I don't know. That's why it was so funny.
Me and you were joking. Like, we think Turpin was probably supposed to pitch the ball back to Ezekiel Elliott. Like, Zeke was supposed to leak out of that block, but they just forgot that a defensive tackle was going to be on the field at the same time.
It was so classic to me. Like, that entire drive, Dallas, the last drive, was so comical. Starting with, they rolled Dak Prescott out, and he took 12 seconds off the clock and still got an incompletion. I'm like, dude,
and if
what are you
Armstead just
doing?
wraps up, that's a safety, and that's game. And the attempted throw was 11 yards down the field from the 5.
It was too funny. And then I was like, okay, well, that happened. Then Schultz, he doesn't get his feet in. It was like and then it's like, okay, Dallas, maybe there could be a miracle if something happens here. And then Zeke Elliott lines up at center. I'm like, this is just not going to end good. Like, it was a classic thing we joke about all the time about Kellen Moore, like galaxy brain. That was a classic, like, oh, we've been practicing this, and it's going to look so good on paper. And then Zeke Elliott gets blown up snapping the ball, and he immediately get tackled, season over.
And then you're hoping that your guard and tackle on the other side of the field make it around to throw lead blocks 53.5 yards away. Like, I don't know. It had no shot, and they weren't going to win the game. But not a great day from Dallas's offense, and not a great end to the season for Dak Prescott. Shout out to Brett Barr finally making a field goal.
Hey, shout out. And the Dallas going to have some time to think about everything as they get eliminated. Niners move on. And they'll play the Philadelphia Eagles. And Tyson gave some early thoughts there. But we're just talking about this game. I mean, this was an ass kicking. This was a clinic, and we were saying this in our preview. I was getting sick and tired of just people like, oh, the Eagles just, they're not very good down the stretch. Like, Gardner Minshew was the quarterback. They were banged up. They were injured. Like, it's okay. You're in the NFL. We all hear it all the time, any given Sunday. But I guess the Eagles just didn't get a pass when they were banged up. Like, oh, they lost a couple games. We're going to say the Cowboys are better than them. We're going to say this team's better. No, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC all year. And they came out and they fucking kicked the shit out of the Giants early and often. That was super impressive by that coaching staff to put that game plan together.
The game was over on the second play. Like, Philadelphia takes a shot pass to Devontae Smith, and it was like, well, if this is the offense that showed up, New York realistically can't do anything. And that was proven over and over again. If anything, New York now gets something to put in front of Daniel Jones at the contract negotiation table to be like, dude, we're not giving you the mega max. Like, he just threw for 57 yards and a half in the playoffs. We can't have this. Overall, I mean, I said it with the Niners defense, but the Philadelphia scheme, we've talked about it all year. It's so simple and it's so easy for them to run. And you look at it and you're like, how do they have guys running wide open? And it's every week. And there's 18, 19 games of this or whatever on film now. And nobody stepped up to the plate and been able to stop it unless Gardner Minshew's under center. If this is the Philadelphia Eagles offense that comes to play, good luck. Because we know what the defense is. A little bit overrated probably by the national media, but then they have games like this where it's like, holy shit. And we said, you're not going to see a ton of Reed Blankenship. So what did he do? He led the team in snaps and played a great game as an undrafted free agent. And they're still missing one of the 5 best slot cornerbacks in the NFL, Devontae Maddox. Like, this defense isn't at full strength yet. This was a ideal tune-up game. And it furthered this thought in my mind that this might be the best offensive line unit in the history of the NFL.
It's super
offensive
good.
line it's not fair.
Dickerson went out, dude, and like it wasn't even a talking point. Like, oh, backup's good, just as good. All right, let's keep it rolling.
He's back in 2 plays. Like, all these dudes are like Captain America. That all night it's like, oh, Lane Johnson is laboring because everyone's saying abdominal. Lane said it's his groin. He said that on the Pat McAfee show. And then he's hobbling around, and all he does is stonewall Kayvon Thibodeau for 60 minutes. Like, this group is unreal.
It is. And quick story here. So, and I texted you a little bit about this. I was at apartment party, all Giants fans. I had to be the villain. I wore up my Eagles shirt, and I was like, man, because if this gets tight, like I know I'm going to be the target for everybody here. And I just want to say thank you to Nick Sirianni, thank you to Jalen Hurts, because I didn't have to sweat. I could have not put on deodorant and showed up to that thing. It wouldn't have been stinking. Like that was an easy win for the Eagles. And the Giants didn't want to play physical. They didn't want to stop the run. They didn't want to tackle. They didn't want to do anything in that game. And the Eagles, if you do that thinking, if you go out into a game against the Eagles thinking you don't have to be physical, they're going to run through you. And that's exactly what they did. And you touched on it a bit. I give my thoughts here. Eagles Niners, just early thoughts. I'm worried about the Eagles not being able to stop the run. I think they did a good job in this game with Jordan Davis back. It's a completely different unit. Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh just rotate bodies in and out. But I think to beat the Niners, and I think to slow them down, you have to take away that rushing attack and force Brock Purdy to have to beat your number one ranked secondary in the league. And as far as the other side, what the Niners are going to do here, I think you have to win at the line of scrimmage on defense. Like you can't let Jalen Hurts be comfortable at all.
That's it. It's a trenches game, and if you're Philadelphia, you got to really like your chances. San Francisco's offensive line is great run blockers. They're suspect pass blockers everywhere but Trent Williams. I think that is something that got exposed a little bit today, and that was something we talked about in the preview, was that they haven't faced anybody that could get after the passer in 11 weeks since Brock Purdy took over. And then now all of a sudden he's under pressure. DeMarcus Lawrence looked like the guy that got paid $100 million. Like he played really well today, I thought. Philadelphia is just going to throw body after body after body. And if they take care of the rushing attack, it's going to be really hard. And on the flip side of the ball, nobody in the NFL stopped the Eagles running the football when Jalen Hurts has been in. When Gardner Minshew's been in, different story. So that's something that I think the 49ers would be the first to do, and they're well equipped to do that. The problem is everything else that comes off that threat, because at the mesh point when Hurts has the ball stuck in Sanders' belly or Gainwell or Scott or whoever it is, Goddard's open, Smith is on a screen with two blockers. Now what do you do? Because if Fred Warner takes one step in, it's Goddard. If Fred Warner sticks with that, then it's a run. If they play that perfectly, it's a screen off. And that's the simplicity of it, but that's what makes it so hard to stop. And they're better at running their offense than any unit in the NFL is at running theirs.
We'll give our full preview. Eagles Niners coming up later in the week. Obviously, with only 2 games to be scheduled, we're going to do a lot more in-depth analysis and things like that later in the week. So we just want to share some early thoughts for the NFC Championship game. On the AFC side of things, so the Chiefs eliminated the Jags, right? 27-20. Mahomes was unbelievable. High ankle sprain. He on one leg's better than like 95% of the quarterback. Like it's crazy. Like the guy's just super, super good. And the Jags, it just never felt like they were in that game. I don't know why. Just maybe because it's new and fresh, but I thought the Chiefs were in control the entire time. What did you think?
Well, when Jamal Agnew had that huge kickoff return to start the game, I thought maybe we'd have something a little funky. Didn't come to fruition. And then when Agnew fumbled the ball as the Jaguars go down, and it would have been classic, like everyone would have overreacted probably and been like, the Jaguars are making their comeback, and the Chiefs would have just 10 yards and they won the game basically. But they're just too good, man. Like when they're rolling, they have like no holes on this football team, and there's holes all over the place. And I understand how that sounds, but when they put things together, you can't beat them. Like when Patrick Mahomes is playing well, even on one leg, they can just score more points than you, and that's what it comes down to. And the defense is good enough. I wouldn't say the Jaguars probably had the second to worst best offense left in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But even still, like they did their job, and that's what they do. Is they just we need 35. We're only going to let you score 31. And that's just how they play football.
Yeah, and when Travis Kelce's getting the ball and you can somehow manage to have him catch the ball 14 times, come on. And on the Jacksonville side of things, and we talked about this pre-show, if you know the guy's hobbled, can you fucking bring pressure, please? Like
Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker drop back into coverage like 28% of snaps.
Like, come on.
For what? For what?
It was crazy. Like, and if he's gonna beat you man to man, you could live with that instead of having the quarterback hobbled. This guy too, who was beating you with his legs all game. Well, you took that away by happenstance, high ankle sprain. Okay, that's what we needed. We needed Mahomes to be a little banged up if we wanted to have a chance in this game. They didn't pressure the guy. It was crazy. I don't know what the thought was there. Like, how do you not adjust to that so quickly? Come on.
That was frustrating if you're a Jaguars fan. On the flip side, though, you're probably just like, God damn, we only lost by 7 to the Chiefs in the divisional round. Like, you feel pretty good. On the whole, like, there's not a ton that happened in this game that I think people were surprised by or shocked
Right.
by. If
Good
anything,
point.
people were pissed that the Chiefs didn't cover the number, but they never do. Like,
Yeah.
the Chiefs don't cover these big numbers. Andy Reid doesn't give a shit about your parlays. He just wants to win the football game. It'll be interesting on Mahomes' health going forward because that's obviously going to be the story.
Yep.
Because if he's ready to roll, I think that the Sharps are going to be having a day at the sportsbook next weekend.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, and we're going to hear reports, everything. To talk about the team they're playing now, the Bengals. I mean, they stopped the Bills. Like, you had this one pegged. They just looked like winners. I mean, they dominated that first quarter. Scored 14, went up 14-0. It basically was like, you know, this game just kind of looks over. That offensive line unit that was banged up coming in didn't matter because Burrow just got the ball out of his hands. I thought Zach Taylor did a great job offensively game planning how they wanted to run this game and how they wanted to attack that Bills defense. I don't know. I mean, are people going to finally like admit they were wrong on Zach Taylor and be like, actually, you know what? He can actually coach in this league because clearly he can. And I know like people hate him and they're like, oh, this guy's just such an idiot and he sucks. We said that before too. But we also can adjust. We also are adjusting to new opinions, new information. And I'm going to say that Zach Taylor is a good coach in the league.
I think he's elite, dude. I think playoff Zach Taylor is elite, and it's funny crazy. Because Burrow's going to get all the credit, and he deserves a ton of it because nobody in the NFL is better at quick game than Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. Nobody. And no disrespect to Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys that have been doing it for 100 years. Nobody runs quick game like Joe Burrow, and they make it so fucking easy. Like, I'm here with my eyes, boom, 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 don't have it checked out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to sit here and pat the ball like some of these other guys. And to be honest, the one thing that this game taught us is everyone out there, you have to stop doing this with the Buffalo Bills. The problems with the Buffalo Bills have been persisting for 3 years, and we keep saying that this is like, look at what they did against the Rams week 1, and look at what they did in week 8. We haven't seen that team. That team shows up twice a year. They show up on Sunday night, and then everyone forgets about, oh, the Bills are soft. And then the playoffs start, and they lose. They're at home. It's snowing in Buffalo, and that's what it takes for people to realize that the Bills are soft. It's like this game could have been played anywhere in the world, and the Bengals were going to beat them. They're just better.
Yeah, and you know, I fell trapped to that, and that's. I mean, we'll do an analysis kind of like on at season end on different gambling stuff and different thoughts in general. That's one of the things that I think I'm gonna adjust to next year is. You gotta like look at what the team is currently, and I think for the Eagles, there could be an overreaction to the point where like, oh well, the Eagles the past few weeks have been bad. Well, we've seen them be elite. The Bills, there was just something off with them like mid season on, like it was so strange. Diggs and Josh Allen don't seem to have this chemistry anymore. The offense I thought was horrible this game. Like the play calling was terrible. I mean, you're talking about patting the ball. That's all that offense is. There's no quick hitters. There's nothing besides Allen run around.
There was none.
It was bad.
There was no, at least in the bad Josh Allen games, there's like the fuck it, I'm going to go win this thing in there.
Right.
And this game, it was like, I'm so terrified of making a mistake because I heard everybody all week long saying I make too many. Like, oh, let's clean up the turnovers. You're taking the magic away. Like, everyone wants Josh Allen to be Brett Favre too. Right? He's like a refined Cam Newton. That's kind of who he is, and that's a great fucking football player. That's an MVP of the league, a guy that's been to a Super Bowl. Josh Allen's never been past the divisional round, and we talk about this team. Tony Romo last week was saying champ, wizard, alien, all this stuff. Today he just looked like a guy, and
yeah, he did.
He played bad, and the team as a whole played bad. You got Diggs grabbing his shit and leaving the locker room before the coaches even get in there. It's just. The Buffalo Bills are going to Buffalo Bill, dude. Don't let all this regular season stuff fool you because he's going to go next year in your fantasy football drafts. He'll be the number 1 pick for quarterback again. He'll put up crazy numbers. The defense will be really good. The offense will be scoring points on scrubs. And then they'll go to the playoffs and they'll have to play the Bengals again or they'll have to play the Chiefs. And they've never beaten them when it mattered.
And this will be something for our offseason discussion about the Bills. There needs to be a fundamental change in that organization. Like, they have to figure out a direction where they want to go. Because, like you said, if you put them on paper with the Chiefs and the Bengals, they're just as good. But there's a belief that the Bengals have that they're going to win every single game. And the Chiefs know they're just better than you, and they will win the game. Like, Chiefs won't cover. They'll win. They'll win every time. Like, they don't care if they're 9-point favorites. They win by a field goal. They're going on next week. Like, that's how it is. And it feels like the Bills, like, they need just the perfect storm. Like, they need to score 50 and they need to be dominating, or if not, then what really are they? And when they weren't doing that in this season, it was like, well, maybe they can still get to that point. We saw what they did against the Rams, to your point. We saw what they did against the Titans. And man, that team's out there somewhere. But that doesn't happen in the NFL very often, where you score 50 and you score 40 and everything goes right. It's games like these. Oh, the field's pretty slippery. Well, we need to change our game plan. We just can't have our quarterback running around back there and tapping the ball and just hoping somebody gets open. Like, there needs to be a change in philosophy, and this hasn't happened in Buffalo. Maybe it'll happen in the offseason.
I mean, I'm going to start hitting the table here pretty soon. Bijan Robinson should be a Buffalo Bill. This is ridiculous, dude. The fact that they can't run the ball, and they've invested so much. Like, you might not think a third-round pick in James Cook is a huge investment. Well, it was at the time, because James Cook wasn't a third-round projected running back, right? And he's had a better season than Tyrion Davis-Price, for instance, who also went in the third round. That's decent draft capital. Relying on Devin Singletary over and over again. Like, it's just Zach Moss cut him after a year and a half of being basically a bench warmer, a healthy scratch. Like, they got to do something in how long until we look at these guys on the offensive and defensive line? Like, it's getting to the point where it's like, we talk about all these studs they have everywhere, but they don't play where it matters in the playoffs.
I know.
It's like, oh man, they got Diggs and they got Allen, they got Poyer. Matt Milano was fine today. They just have a bunch of. It's a team full of 5 stars at all skill positions, but the game's won in the trenches, and they've been getting their ass kicked there for 3 years. It's embarrassing. It's a punt, dude, on 4th and 2 to basically volunteer to go down 3 scores to lose the game. That's something that needs, and McDermott shouldn't lose his job. He's a hell of a football coach. But like, those are things that if that happened, if Mike McCarthy made the same decision today,
right,
that's all that's going to be running on radio for the next week.
Okay, Chiefs Bengals, early thoughts before we get out of here. Here's the storyline: Mahomes' ankle. There's no way he's gonna be 100% healthy. Like, that just can't happen. X-rays, MRIs confirmed it is a high ankle sprain. That's a 4 to 6 week recovery period to be 100%. He's going to be in a walking boot. He's going to be hurt. How hurt? Can he play? Can he limp around? Is the Toradol shot, is it going to be playable to the point where you don't really feel it? Or is it going to be massively limping around? Like, how does that look? How did it feel after the adrenaline? That's what we're going to find out this week. I'm leaning Bengals early. They know how to beat this team. They can get pressure on Mahomes. And newsflash, I'm going to mention him. My guy, Lou Anarumo, knows how to beat this offense, knows how to bring pressure in spots, and that challenges Patrick Mahomes. I'm right now early on thinking Bengals. What are you just thinking about this game?
Well, the thing that I'm going to have to kind of go back and forth on, the Chiefs have to be physical. Like, more physical. They have to sign up to play a Cincinnati Bengals style football game, because 3 times in the last year they've tried to play a Kansas City Chief football game against these dudes, and they've lost. Whatever reason, the Bengals just basically hit the shit out of the Chiefs in a way that nobody else does, in a way that neutralizes them. And you can say they've had crazy comebacks and all that, because they have, but it starts on defense, and it starts on creating turnovers. The pass rush is the most underrated in the NFL. Like, they have 2 or 3 guys that should be Pro Bowlers or all pro rolling around that defense. Don't get any love. And they were there today. There were a couple. We were pretty close to Josh Allen fumbling the ball 2-3 times on guys coming around the corner. And that's going to happen to Pat. And if Pat can't get out of the way, it's going to be really hard for me to see Joe Burrow doesn't make mistakes to lose football games. So if the defense does what they do, it's going to be Bengals. And over under 10.5 times the broadcast says these are the 2 best quarterbacks in football.
Well, Romo's on the call, right? So
Well, it'll be weird because 2 weeks ago Josh Allen was the best, and then every time you watch
Yeah,
Mahomes, he's the best, and then Burrow today, he
right.
was like, "This guy, man."
Yeah. He kind of sucks now, Romo. Right? He's not a good listen.
No, I mean, he turned the game into this is what I think is going to happen rather than like kind of reacting to the game in front of him because it's the fourth quarter and he's like, well, when we met with these guys on Thursday, this is what they said. It's like Tony, I don't give a shit, dude.
Right.
45 minutes have gone by. You could have said that in the first quarter.
Yeah. It's brutal right
How
now.
many times we hear big game Gabe today as he did essentially nothing outside of one play?
I know. And that's the other thing, though, too, with the Bills. Throw them the ball. Get these guys open. But, God, that's frustrating. We'll talk about the Bills more, and we will preview Chiefs-Bengals, the AFC Championship game later in the week as well. This has been our divisional round reaction. Great weekend for you and me, Tyson. Not only do the Eagles kick the shit out of the Giants, you had basically every single bet that you placed in the NFL. Yeah, you ended up beating me again in the mano a mano. I just got to stop doing that. Like, I need to get your picks beforehand. So I'm like, well, I'm changing it.
You need to just react to the new information that I put in front of you, and they're all gut calls. Is the thing you're coming in with all the info, and I'm just like, man, I think Joe Burrow is going to win. Like I don't have any actual inside info here.
Hey, not that you know of. Maybe that you're keeping everybody off your smoke screen.
That's true. But if you want more info on our bets, that's in the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store or Google Play. Basically, Brad and I are in there throwing our picks around. We've got college football, and that's rolling. College basketball right now, NBA right now, soccer, obviously the NFL. We just had a UFC card. A little bit of a rough start to the new year for the boy over here. It was a tough UFC weekend, so it kept me humble. But we're gonna get back. We're gonna be spraying the board all over the place, and we threw together a fun little parlay for the people in there today too. Unfortunately, that came up a little bit short, but we're looking good for a half.
Yeah.
But there's stuff like that in there all the time. The group name is the Round Table, and it's in the Chalkboard app.
Check us out there. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the show. Follow us on Instagram at _ the roundtable pod _ our TikTok handle is the same. And send us a tweet over at TRT _ pod. We appreciate you guys listening. We will talk to you later in the week as we preview the conference championship games in the National Football League. Until then, peace.